Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I'm going to deliberately do some different names off the top here today. I feel like all week I've just been talking about Nate Bargatze and Bill Burr, so I'm going to work in some other people, although we'll get to those guys. John Oliver says a UK version of Saturday Night Live is a terrible idea. John told Seth Meyers, it just sounds like a bad idea. We've had sketch comedy before, and it just feels like Saturday Night Live is such a unique group. It's a cult. I'm trying not to say the word. It's a cult, and I don't know how you can impose that cult on the UK. Seth Meyers asked John to identify the most cult-like thing about SNL. Oliver said, what night is it you stay up all night? Meyers said, Tuesday night. You stay up all night on Tuesday. Oliver said, that's ridiculous. I'm saying that's the kind of a thing a cult leader would make you do. We stay up all night on Tuesdays, by the way. John continued, I think it's been proven that SNL is the outlier. It doesn't have to be dictated to the day that you must not sleep on that day or the great leader will be irritated. I'm looking forward to SNL UK. It gives me more things to talk about. David Cross will be at Bellingham's Mount Baker Theatre tonight. He explained touring and said, it's what you do. You work up a bunch of material, then you take it on the road, you shoot a special, and when that airs, you work up new material, and then you go out again. This set, though, is not quite as topical or political as it usually is. That's surprising, isn't it? You'd think you'd have something to talk about right now. Because the first half of the set, with one exception, is just a true embarrassing situation I found myself in. Another difference about this tour, Cross stopped in the middle of the tour to go to Broadway as part of All In, a comedy about love. Remember that show? It had the rotating cast. Cross said it was a limited 10-week run or something like that, and they asked me to be part of it. It was great. It was really a feather in my cap. Cross is doing all sorts of things. He's also on season 4 of Netflix's The Umbrella Academy. He played Cy Grossman and said, I don't think I've worked on a show quite like that, especially with the reach that one had, and I'd never seen it before I got the offer, and it was one of those things where it was like, if you could do this, you need to fly out on Monday. I shot a couple scenes, and then I went back and started watching it with my wife, and we immediately got hooked. Don't worry about David quitting stand-up. He says, to me, it's just what I do, and I'm doing stand-up. If I'm not working on a project or TV show, movie, whatever the thing is, but I'm always doing stand-up. I've never stopped doing stand-up. How did he get a podcast? He told the Bellingham Herald, I woke up one day and checked the mail, and there was a thing saying it was my time to do a podcast. It was required by the government, and my number came up. So I went down to the studio and just started doing it. Jimmy O Yang is going to do a show in Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong press was all excited about this. My comedy trackers were like, oh my goodness, Jimmy O Yang is doing a show in Hong Kong. He will play the Hong Kong Coliseum on June 14th. Time Out reminds us, Yang can speak Cantonese, Shanghaiese, and Mandarin Chinese, so they are guessing some of the material will be in Cantonese at the Hong Kong show. Now, at first, I freaked out at the ticket prices, which I saw as $380, $580, and $780. Now, love Jimmy O Yang, but $780 is a lot. But then I learned, I was not aware, there is currency called Hong Kong dollar. So the prices are in Hong Kong dollars, and as I record this, Google tells me 780 Hong Kong dollars is 100 US dollars. So that's not too bad. That's reasonable to see Jimmy O Yang. And those are the pricey seats. I mean, if we want to get the 380 HK dollars, that's just $50. Tickets on sale today at 2 p.m. Which time zone? That I can help you with for HSBC credit card priority bookings only. So if you're like, I got to go see Jimmy O Yang in Hong Kong, I suggest you start looking right now. There's also a Klook pre-sale on May 12th at noon. Klook. What's that? I don't know either. But I'm the one hosting this thing, so it gets up to me to figure out what Klook is. Google tells us on Klook, you can find discounted attraction tickets, tours with unique experiences, and more. They seem to purvey in theme park tickets and airport transfers and other things. Klook. Time Out reminds us the Hong Kong Coliseum, which sounds like it would be this huge building, right? You'd think Jimmy O Yang's playing to 80,000 people. No, the Hong Kong Coliseum only seats 12,500 people. We'll see if he adds a second show. Isn't this fun? I haven't mentioned Nate Bargatze or Bill Burr yet. Howie Mandel was on with Nestor from Baltimore Positive. Nestor was curious if everyone should try stand-up comedy at one point in their life. Howie said, I think if everybody got up and it's stand-up, there'd be a huge crowd on stage and one or two people in the audience. That's funny. I love an audience. I think you should be an audience member. I think people should sit comfortably in the theater and just watch one person on the stage try to regale you with humor. I look at it like a giant party, and I'm just trying to be the center of attention. As for working clean, working blue, Howie says, obviously after all these years in the business, I have many hours of prepared material, but I love to be veered off, whether it be because of something that's happening in the moment, technical problems, something else, or whatever. I don't have an edit button. I'm just a human. Hannah Berner got one of those big profiles by the Hollywood Reporter. I'll zero in on the stand-up comedy part of it, and they were curious if Hannah finds it odd to find herself on TV doing stand-up instead of reality TV. Hannah said, the stand-up special is my therapy. Reality TV was one of the ways I was put on, so I'm grateful for it, but I can't watch reality TV anymore. I do think reality TV, as I saw, is that everyone was put into characters, and you're pretty much put into a box. The rampant misogyny, it gave me this chip on my shoulder to be like, I want to be seen as me. When I say me, I mean all the sides of me. I want to put out the vulnerability, the mistakes I've made, the confidence I have, the anxiety I have. If I'm going to be judged, I want to be judged based off at least a human rather than archetype. I do think I always emphasize just how women are so multifaceted, and I try to, in my comedy, say things that maybe women were afraid of or insecure about, so they can say, Hannah just said it, so it can't be that bad. All right, I'm editing on the fly here. In my A block here, I've got leftover Burr and Nate. I'm a little Nated out. Want to take a Nate break? Let's do Burr. This piece in the New Yorker, a really good profile with Burr where he got political. It is behind a paywall, but if you're good at the internet, like really good at the internet, you got to have like internet skills. You can get to this one. Or, of course, pay for a subscription to the New Yorker like I did. Bill said, why is there Fox News? Because there was CNN. No president has allowed to be president since the first Bush. So what he's saying there, because I've read ahead, is that the news networks give every president a hard time. Here are some examples per Bill Burr. Once they went after Bill Clinton for lying about, the thing with the intern. Let's not go there. Everybody else, George W. Bush, he stole the election. Obama, he's not from here. Trump, everything that he did. Joe Biden, let's get something on him. We can't get something? Oh, his kid does cocaine. How does it help us if a certain percentage of the president stays dealing with the other side trying to take him out and impeach him, which is never going to happen? Burr, who was there to promote Glengarry Glen Ross, said to the interviewer, are we going to talk about the play, or am I just going to come across as the political guy? There was a good discussion on Threads. I'd asked the question just like I did on the podcast, is Jay Leno a good guy or a bad guy? Yeah, there's the Conan thing, but he seems like a good guy. That's just when I was reading the stuff about Mavis. And yet nobody ever seems to say good things about him. I got some good responses here. Megan responded on Threads, as I'm at Daily Comedy News. Howard Stern has nothing good to say about him after reading the War on Late Night book. It sounds like he's a backstabber who also wants everyone to like him and no hard feelings after he betrays them. Someone named Devoted wrote, when I lived in L.A. in the late 90s, one of my roommates worked on The Tonight Show as a page and then eventually as a writer. From what I heard, Leno's a great guy to work for, and I was able to see his real comic self, which is much more acerbic and funny than what he was like on the show for obvious reasons. Yeah, I've talked about this. If you watch the old Late Night with David Letterman, Jay Leno appearances, you got the edgy Jay Leno, not that he was, Tim Dillon or Andrew Schultz or someone like that, but he was a lot edgier than the Tonight Show persona. And like I've talked about with Fallon, when you host the Tonight Show, that is a particular shade of yourself that you have to do because that's what the Tonight Show is. John Roy Comic, who writes for Vulture, said, when I did his show, he was very cool and hung out in the green room telling comedy stories. He also knew my act, which is rare for the host. No other host I worked for did either of those things. And then Ford probably had the best take. He wrote, Jay is a guy. Like all other people, there's some good and some bad in all of us. And I did not react well to this. Somebody came at me and wrote, how would you compare if all your readers were asked the same question about you? Also, why are you holding him up for a public referendum? You can let us know your record. So I did. And here's what I wrote. Seriously? Okay. I ran SiriusXM Comedy for 10 years out of a 30-year radio career. My reputation is that I'm a nice guy. I'm sure someone out there doesn't like me because we're all humans, and I'll comment on that. My reputation in the industry is that I'm a nice guy. Like I wrote to the person back, I'm sure someone thinks I'm a jerk face, and I can be a jerk face. And I'm sure people who are reading my Substack are like, this guy's a jerk face, but I admit I'm writing the Substack a little jerky for attention to promote the podcasts. So I'm sure people that don't actually know me and only read that are like, that guy is a D, and I would get it, and I would totally understand. But people who've actually worked with me, my reputation is that I'm pretty cool. And then, because I was highly offended, I wrote, then I explained, the spirit of my inquiry is that the guy gets dragged by comics, but in interviews he seems nice. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting discussion. Real quick, let's hit Gossip Corner. Graham Norton is selling his New York City crash pad. Must be nice to have a New York City crash pad. Listen to this crash pad. He's selling it for $5.6 million. The Murray Hill Carriage House on Sniffin Court, which is a private gate muse. Now, I grew up in New York City. I'm like, where is Sniffin Court? And apparently it's this little street that is gated in Manhattan's Murray Hill neighborhood. Sniffin Court has just 10 residences The homes were built in 1863 and 1864's horse stables. At the turn of the 20th century, they were converted into single-family townhouses. I looked at the pictures, which you'll find on the Rob Report. Pretty nice-looking place. The great room has 15-foot ceilings, a fireplace. There's a dining room. The second-floor guest bedroom has a marble bathroom. The third floor has the primary suite. There's even a rooftop. Not bad. $5.6 million if you got the cash. I don't. I wish I did, because the place looks pretty darn snazzy. And for a place in New York, just that it's even on the market, if you've got 5.6, grab this thing. I'm not a real estate agent. Make your own decisions. All right, and that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you're finding me on YouTube, again, I'm old. I don't know. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a podcaster who's on YouTube because that's what you're supposed to do. So smash the bell and like and all that stuff. Whatever the kids tell you to do, do that. See you tomorrow.